We will rise and join in the singing of the first stanza of our national anthem and then remain standing for the invocation by our beloved faculty member, the Reverend Alfred B. Starrett, Rector of Emmanuel Church. Let us rise.
Beginnings and endings exist as conventional markers in the mind of men. They do not exist in the real, non-verbal world where the process of creative transformation is continuous. We are gathered to note the end of one stage of life and the beginning of another for the members of the graduating class of Gilman School. The occasion also marks a change for a great headmaster who leaves us for other forms of service, and for a beloved teacher who will now take over the leadership of the school. What these young men will be in the future has already been largely shaped by their years at Gilman. What this school will become under the guidance of Redmond Finney will be a further development of what it has become under Ludlow Baldwin. The future grows from the past. On this day, therefore, O God, we give thanks for all that has been, the sorrows that stretch the dimensions of the heart and place a challenge before the mind, as well as the joys of our life together, which have inspired higher hopes and better aspirations. And we ask your blessing and your help in all that is yet to be, that this fellowship of learning, this dear community of memory and hope, may continue to serve this nation in the nurture of men able to embody the ideals of accurate scholarship, sensitive understanding of others, and wisdom that flows from involvement with the best of our human heritage. Amen.
Either first or second in each of his high school years, and it is on the basis of the composite record in the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth forms that selection as valedictorian is made. In addition, he has won his letter in football, was a principal officer in the Dramatic Association, an editor of the Gilman News, a leading debater, and one of our best public speakers. In other words, he is unusually able and is also most generous with his abilities and talents. And now he is valedictorian in an outstanding class. He is John Rochester Sprague.
Mr. Baldwin, Dr. Trimble, members of the Board of Trustees, members of the faculty, classmates, and friends. About a month ago, the Knicks Debating Club received in the mail a very interesting advertisement. It was headed, "You too can make a valedictory speech." So naturally, I snatched it up when I learned that I was to make this speech. It seems that for just $2 with 13 cents mailing cost, any valedictorian with an impoverished mind can obtain a complete skeleton oration, which can be rendered the perfect commencement address by simply filling in the blanks. Apparently, there are numberless cliches and platitudes that can be applied to any commencement situation anywhere. But this commencement is, I believe, a unique and special occasion. We are at the Gilman School. It is June 3rd, 1968, and the class of 1968 is graduating. It is an honor and a privilege for me to speak for the group of young men behind me on this platform. I have found it somewhat difficult to characterize the class of 1968 as a class, though I surmise that we are distinctly different from any other Gilman classes of recent years. There is such diversity and individuality within this group that we have never felt any strong identity as a class. This has, if anything, enhanced the excellence with which we have performed in all our endeavors, whether academic, athletic, artistic, or philanthropic. I mention this last because I think that more than any other group in Gilman's history, the class of 1968 has been involved in community affairs. One need only look at the very many tangible community service programs at Gilman: Operation Challenge, the Tutorial Project, the Volunteer Hospital Project, the Christian Association Christmas Drive, and the United Appeal, or at the vital active interest in the late lamented Maryland Constitution, ever since Mr. Schroeder announced his campaign for the delegacy a year and a half ago. The one achievement of our class that I believe I will pass over without mentioning is our undefeated B championship football team, number one in the state, the finest in the school's history. No, I don't believe I'll mention that. This combined with the fact that all our varsity teams, or that none of our varsity teams have finished lower than second place this year, with championship basketball and tennis teams, would lead to the conclusion that it has been a good year athletically. Last fall, the class of 1968 undertook the leadership of this school with quiet, unassuming competence. And this has been a year of interest and ferment and progress in many important areas of school life. Most significant among these was the vital discussion and reevaluation of the honor system, initiated in January by a news poll and carried through under the leadership of the Student Council and a new student faculty committee, which, in the last week before exams, presented its recommendations for changes in the system. Energetic imagination and improvement were brought to the Blue and Gray, the news, the Cynosure, and to many other student-led activities. I will not dwell on the academic success of this class. I think the record speaks for itself. The attitudes and actions of the class of 1968 have been influenced in fashion by a discerning and devoted faculty, of course by our parents, and by four men whom I would like to mention in particular. Mr. Schroeder, for his cool competence as a teacher and a coach, and for his incisive perception of many aspects of this country far into Gilman life. Mr. Barker, for his high integrity and unstinting standards, moral and academic. Mr. Thompson, for his utter commitment to teaching as a profession and for his unfailing efforts to understand, shape, and improve the sixth form situation. And finally, Mr. Baldwin, for his overwhelming concern and devotion to this school. This has been a year of transition. Next year will be one of beginnings as Mr. Baldwin retires and Mr. Finney takes up the reins of headmastership. We can only wish Mr. Finney, the faculty, and the Gilman School at large continued success and improvement in the ensuing years. As I have said, the class of 1968 has never felt a strong identity as a class. Ever since the first form, there have been distinct divisions, depending in part upon where we went to elementary school, and in part upon whether we were athlete, social, or intellectual types. This was normal enough, and with growth and increasing maturity, the groups blended, mellowed, and took on new appearances. The barriers melted a bit, and a healthier, unpretentious sort of contempt-respect attitude developed among the groups. Many individuals managed to transcend their individual cliques and became, to a certain limited extent, class personalities. The class has been far more united in spirit and in purpose this year than ever before. Yet the groups essentially remain. I would not dwell on this if I did not feel that it was as important as our various accomplishments and achievements. This situation seems to have grown out of the stay-at-home inertia of our social position. We do not fully respect or relate to those about us because it is far easier to withdraw into our own little groups and view others from a cold, clear distance. Complementary to this is a basic attitude, which is the very life and breath of this institution, a feeling of noblesse oblige, that because we have the means, the ability, and the education, we really should be characterized by excellence and integrity in whatever we do. And on the whole, we have been so characterized. Yet, are excellence and integrity worthy ideals purely for their own sake? Such qualities must be channeled into meaningful action that involves others outside our particular group or social class. In other words, we have not quite found ourselves. We have not yet learned how or where or why to put our talents and advantages to use, fully, genuinely, enthusiastically, for ourselves and for the community. What emotions and thoughts dominate the senior mind at Gilman? Well, the single greatest problem of the senior year at Gilman is what we have come to call senior ennui. And every one of us knows what that means. It means sitting on the tables and lounging in the chairs in the sixth form room with no seeming purpose to our lives. For example, just as stoning was a common form of punishment in the ancient world because stones lay all over the ground, so bookings are commonly executed in the sixth form room. The crimes dealt with in such a manner are usually 1, telling an atrocious pun, 2, being an underclassman trespasser, or 3, simply happening to be on the other side of the room. There's never anything so exciting as a student uprising or protest because we simply don't have anything to uprise or protest against. I suppose the most adventuresome thing we ever did was to construct a 15-man pyramid, the evidence of which you will find in the cynosure. But basically, it's just plain dull. The reason for this is that the challenge and the excitement of discovering new things dissipate in the last half of the senior year. We know the school from stem to stern, and we have made our way as far as we are going to go at Gilman. We have outgrown our environment. And so I would not say that we seniors feel a love for the Gilman School. We are deeply grateful, but not sentimentally so. The place has been a good place. It has been the center of aspirations and labor and friendship for 6 years. The focus of concern, the way of life. Gilman is in our blood, but the time has come to move on. In these years, horizons have fled before us, and the world has blossomed into its rich reality. We are just beginning to sense the great depth and complexity of life. We are just beginning to cast off the trappings of adolescence. We are just beginning to come out into the tempest of living. Next year, we will begin anew. Thomas Wolfe eloquently captured the feelings we have at this moment when he described Eugene Gant's departure from his hometown in the closing lines of the novel, Look Homeward, Angel. I should say he was like a man who stands upon a hill above the town he has just left, yet does not say the town is near, but rather turns his eyes upon the distant, soaring ranges.
Thank you, John Sprague. Moving on, the academic honor roll is listed on one of the mimeograph sheets in your Founders Day program. You'll note that 6 received highest honors, meaning 95 or over. 52 received high honors, meaning 90 to 95. 110 received honors, the range here being 85 to 90. The total of these 3 groups represents 36% of the student body, and we congratulate each and every one of these boys. Citations for conspicuous service to the school are listed in another mimeographed enclosure. Our special thanks go to these boys for their fine spirit and contribution to the welfare of the school. It is reassuring to note that the student council and the faculty, which together makes these selections, selected 68 to be so cited for both the first and the second term. Before making the various awards which are customarily given here, I express again our thanks to the many donors who have made possible prizes which recognize accomplishment in many fields. We have printed in full the data on these awards because they recall for us families that are very important to the Gilman School and have been so to our school through the years. In the printed pamphlet headed Founders Day Awards, you will find them listed in the order in which they will be presented. In making these awards, we emphasize that many boys who have contributed significantly to the school in ways where no specific award exists will not receive public recognition on this day. We regret this, and despite suggestions to the contrary, we're continuing to make these awards because the faculty, which has the longest view in this matter, coupled with the most intimate relationship, has no doubt that the way we are proceeding is in the best interest of the class we are honoring, as well as the school as a whole. I only hope that those not cited, though they have contributed nobly, will sense in a personal way our great appreciation for what they have done for us, generously and without thought of recognition. I shall begin with awards in the various branches of athletics. The Culver Football Cup is the large cup on the table to the left and is inscribed each year with the name of the best varsity football player in the opinion of the coaching staff. This year, the award goes to Stuart Oswald Sims, who was captain of this year's championship team and was fullback on the All-Maryland team. Stuart Sims. The C.B. Alexander Jr. Wrestling Cup is awarded to Gilman's best wrestlers, and this year there is a dual award. It is to two boys, each of whom has been an interscholastic champion: Alan Robert Gaby, William Thomas Fitzgerald, Jr. The Class of '39 basketball trophy is awarded to that varsity player who best combines fair play, leadership, and skill. And this year it goes to Dennis Patrick Malone, who was captain of this year's championship basketball team and was guard on the All-Maryland team. Dennis Malone. The Tyler Camel Lacrosse Cup is awarded to the varsity players who are most valuable to their team and who have shown leadership and true sportsmanship throughout the season. The dual award this year goes to David Rutta Owens and Evans Lansing Smith. I'm going to have the Alumni Baseball Cup presented by the President of the Alumni Association, and I would like to ask Mr. Thomas J.S. Waxter, Jr., President, to come forward. And while he is, I will read the citation. The Alumni Baseball Cup is awarded to the boy who has been of greatest service to the varsity team, and the dual award this year goes to Pierce Butler Dunn and William Seabreeze. The C. David Harris, Jr. Tennis Award is given the players whose ability and dedication have made the greatest contributions to the team. There is again a dual award, and this time it is to George Richmond Gross II and James Arrington Sneed, both of whom have been members of the team for 4 years, a team which has just won the championship for the third straight time, and these two are winners of the MSA Doubles Championship. The William Cabell Bruce, Jr. Athletic Prize is awarded to the boy in one of the 4 upper forms most conspicuous for general proficiency in athletic sports and exercises during the past 2 years, and this without having incurred the reproach of questionable conduct in any respect. This year, the award goes to Dennis Patrick Malone. Before coming to the academic awards, I should point out that at morning assembly 2 weeks ago, there were presented certain prizes which pertain to lower forms, and prizes offered by the alumni of Franklin and Marshall College, Brown, Yale, and Harvard Universities, and Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. These are all announced in the current issue of the News, which will be available immediately after this ceremony. Also presented at that time were the Caruso Science Award, won by Andrew Sampson Hirsch, and the Wren Art Prize, given in memory of the founder of Gilman's art courses, and this year won by Christopher Clark Easter. The prizes for highest scholarship in each form have in recent years taken on a new value and a new significance. Mr. William S. Thomas directed a substantial sum to the school for this purpose, as explained in your printed program. Also listed there are the names of the persons in whose honor the 7 prizes are given. First, I will announce the individual winners by forms and ask them to come forward as a group, and then I will announce the school's top scholar. Leading scholar in the first form, Alfred David Burchard. Will Alfred David Burchard please come forward? In the second form, Alan Miller Kaufman, Jr. In the third form, John M. Copper, Jr. In the fourth form, Donald I. Gettinger. In the fifth form, Arthur Lewis Rudolph. And the leading scholar for the sixth form is J. Mark Avery. And the leading scholar for 4 years composite weighted average in the sixth form is, as we have announced, John Rochester Spraggins. Will he also come forward? I want to announce the leading scholar in the school, and he receives this award for the third straight time, John Matthias Copper, Jr. Before closing these remarks about academic honors, I should announce an award that has come to the Gilman School and to 2 Gilman seniors from an outside organization. Those awards are represented by framed certificates prepared by the Moorhead Foundation and presented 2 weeks ago at Prize Day Assembly. Gilman is the only day school in the Moorhead program, which numbers 25 of the country's leading preparatory schools. Each year, the school makes its 2 nominations, and the Moorhead Foundation at Chapel Hill, North Carolina, decides whether the nominees are to receive the award. Each of Gilman's 2 nominees this year receives the designation of Moorhead Scholar, and I ask Robert Green and George Mountcastle to please stand up. And this year, for the first time, a Gilman senior has won a Philip Francis DuPont Regional Scholarship to the University of Virginia. This is one of the university's finest and is awarded in recognition of distinguished academic attainment and promise of continuing achievement. And our first winner in this area and for this prize is Robert Jenkins Prout, and I have a certificate for Bob Prout. And as the fitting close to this part of our exercises, I call attention to another outstanding award that comes to us from the outside. In March of every year, 900,000 juniors here and elsewhere in the United States take the National Merit Scholarship Examinations. Later, we receive notification of those commended, those who are semifinalists, and those who are finalists, and finally, we are told of those who are named as Merit Scholars. There are less than 3,000 of these in the whole country, and we have two, J. Mark Ivry and Travers Coates Nelson. Will they please stand? Following the academic prizes, we come to the Armstrong prizes for poetry and prose. They are given for the best lyrical verse contributed to the Blue and the Gray, and for the best imaginative prose. The award for prose goes to David Halstead Schweitzer, and the award for poetry to George Earl Pierpont Mountcastle. Will they please come forward? The Blue and Gray Prize for prose to first and second formers goes to John Stewart Shirless, whom I will ask to come forward, and for poetry to Paul Merle Crosby. The Elizabeth Woolsey Gilman Prize is won for the best examination on books, the reading of which is not required as part of the school curriculum. And this year it goes to John Graham Brent Whelan. And note that for the past 4 years this prize has been awarded to one or another of the three Whelan brothers. Brent. In regard to the Mrs. J. Crossan Cooper Debating Cup, the winning team in the final school year of the debate this year was the Areopagus, which upheld the affirmative side of the debate on the topic, resolved that the proposed Constitution for Maryland should be ratified. In other words, the conclusion reached by judgment based on their argument was that the proposed Constitution should have been adopted, and this despite the referendum vote. I ask the winners of the debate, whose names are inscribed on the cup, to rise at their seats as I read their names. Brian Barclay Bowie, Alexander Gordon IV, Christopher Reed West. The Dr. John M.T. Finney Senior Debating Prizes are awarded each year to the two outstanding speakers in the annual school debate, and they're given this year to first speaker J. Mark Ivry and second speaker Christopher Reed West. Will they please come forward? The sixth form speaking prizes are awarded to the two boys who deliver the best speeches in the annual speaking contest. The name of the first speaker is inscribed on the Jenkins Sixth Form Speaking Cup. And the first speaker this year is James Winslow Hundley III, and the second speaker is John Rochester Spraggins. Will they please come forward? The Cameron Debating Medallion, awarded for excellence in debating based on the work of the fifth and sixth forms, and in the final debate this year goes to J. Mark Ivry. again. The Alex Randall Jr. Memorial Prize awarded to that boy who has been outstanding in his interest and contribution to literary or publication activities, or who has encouraged younger boys in these fields, is this year awarded to David Halstead Schweitzer. And the class of 1952 Drama Prize, awarded each year to that member of the graduating class who has shown exceptional interest and aptitude in dramatics, goes likewise to David Halstead Schweitzer. The John M.T. Finney Senior Essay Prize is awarded to that member of the graduating class who submits the best written essay on some current aspect of democracy. The subject for this year's essay was Suggested Procedures for Dealing with Strikes in Critical Industries Without Violating Democratic Principles. The award this year goes to J. Mark Every. And I want to add that the judges awarded an honorable mention to George Richmond Gross II, whose essay was so good that the judges feel we should give him special recognition right here. George. The Louis Alma Woodward Award is given to that member of the third form who has revealed in largest measure qualities of leadership, enthusiasm, and loyalty. It is awarded this year to Edward Anthony Grassi. Ed. The Janvier Science Prize is given to the fifth or sixth former who has evidenced real interest and ability of a high order in the field of science, and this year goes to David Kimball Greenlaw. The Williams College Prize for General Proficiency in Latin is given to that member of the fourth, fifth, or sixth forms who is deemed to be most proficient in Latin, and this year goes for the second time to John Rochester Spraggins. The Herbert E. Pickett Prize for General Proficiency in History is given to the boy in one of the two upper forms who has shown the greatest interest and proficiency in history, as displayed not only in the classroom, but outside as well. This year, it goes to three boys, all of whom have been outstandingly proficient in the terms of the award, but each of whom has evidenced an additional particular excellence. William Alexander Fisher III, who has accomplished a breadth of reading greater than any Gilman student in recent years, and I will ask Billy to come forward. Lawrence Wagner Kenny, who has been the most active student participant in actual political and government activities, and James McGill, Jr., who has taken all the history courses offered by the school and has achieved high honors in all of them. prize for proficiency in French is given by the Alliance Française to that boy in the sixth form French class deemed most proficient, and this year the award goes to J. Mark Ivry. The prize for proficiency in mathematics is awarded to that boy in the two upper forms who writes the best examination in that subject, and this year it goes to Andrew Sampson Hirsch. Will he please come forward? I would add that honorable mention was achieved by two other members of the school, one in the sixth form and one in the fifth form. I would ask both of them to stand. Alan Robert Gaby and Lewis Carroll Strauss. The D.K.S.D. Fisher Nature Study Award goes to that boy in one of the upper three forms who, through his studies, reading, and activities, has developed a real interest, understanding, and appreciation of some field of history. This year, the award goes for the second time to Douglas Gordon Carroll III. Douglas? Each year, there are a number of boys to whom the faculty feel especially indebted for helpfulness and contributions which have added greatly to the success and happiness of the year's work. Though it is always difficult to single out only a few boys, we have done so again this year, and on behalf of the faculty, I would like to present to these boys framed etchings of the school as an expression of our appreciation. I will ask each one to come forward as I read the inscription and to await the time when all have been awarded. David Walcott Chapin, from the faculty, with appreciation for his judgment and steadfastness, which have added strength to the school's principles and objectives. David Chapin. William Wallace Downs, from the faculty, with appreciation for his pleasant disposition and sense of responsibility, which combine to make life more pleasant for everyone who has been associated with him. Andrew Sampson Hirsch, from the faculty, with appreciation for his enthusiastic support of the school and his habit of lending a hand wherever needed. Andy Hirsch. Lawrence Wagner Kenny, from the faculty, with appreciation for his concern for other people and his encouragement of the school's interest in community affairs. Larry Cunningham. David McDowell Robinson, from the faculty, with appreciation for his determination and unflagging effort, always to do his very best, and for the inspiration he has given to all who know him. David Robinson. Evans Lansing Smith, from the faculty, with appreciation for his vigor, ability, and performance, and the example he provides wherever he is and in whatever he does. Lance Smith. Christopher Reed West from the faculty with appreciation for his moral courage, dependability, scholarship, and zest for involvement, all of which have added greatly to the success and happiness of the school's year. Chris West. The Edward Fenimore Award is given to that senior whose Gilman career has been marked by accomplishment in which extraordinary courage, determination, and perseverance have been manifested. And this year it goes to Stuart Oswald Sims. The Peter P. Blanchard Award goes to that boy who, by his cheerful helpfulness in many ways, has greatly contributed to the successful and pleasant life of the school. The award this year goes to Alan Streeter Farba. The Daniel Baker Jr. Memorial Award, established by the late Dr. Mason F. Lord and continued through the generosity of his widow, is given to a member of the graduating class who, through service and by reason of his life and character, has contributed to the general welfare and ideals of the school. And this year, this award goes to Benjamin May Baker III. The William A. Fisher Medallion is given only to a member of the upper fifth or sixth forms who has been in the school for 3 consecutive years, is in complete and regular standing in his form, and is closing his school career. The medallion is given among boys of highest standing to that boy who has rendered the highest service that can be rendered to school by leadership based on the influence of character. This is the tangible evidence of the highest honor the school can bestow. And this year the award goes to Edward Smith Harwood. It is a great honor to once again be on the platform here with the president of Gilman's Board of Trustees. Just as it has been through the years, a great honor to be associated with him in our work. Dr. Trimble has had an unmatchable Gilman career, for he was president of his class and of the Athletic Association, and was winner of the Fisher Medallion. He is professor of surgery at the Hopkins Medical School and is a very great, kind, and helpful friend of this school. And this year, he was sponsor of the 50th anniversary celebrated by his very notable class of 1918, Dr. I. Ridgway Trimble.
Mr. Headmaster, members of the graduating class of 1968, members of the Gilman family, I have but a few brief messages for you here this hot, long afternoon. It's a momentous occasion, we all know, and feel and sense. Most of you here recall that 18 months ago in January 1967, Mr. Baldwin told the Board of Trustees that it was his desire and his decision to retire as headmaster this June. We asked him at that time to reconsider his decision, but he reaffirmed his position 6 months later in June of 1967, and we reluctantly accepted his decision. I am unable to express the great sense of gratitude, the great debt in which we stand with regard to all the services Mr. Baldwin has done for so many of us. We are conscious of the power of his teaching, his organizational ability, his leadership, and his unselfish devotion to the school. 2 weeks ago, Tom Waxter, speaking as president of the Alumni Association, stated that Mr. Baldwin was the finest teacher he ever had, and I've heard this, of course, from others. Jim Cutting, for example, a former member of the school from Annapolis. Like all good naval officers, which he was, Mr. Baldwin at the school has run a tight ship and a happy ship. He leaves the school strong in scholarship, strong in faculty, sound in financial condition, high in esprit de corps, all under his firm but wise discipline and his spiritual leadership. We're equally sad to have Mrs. Baldwin leave us. You recall maybe that it was Winston Churchill who said, "Charm is like warmth, it cannot be defined. It is as rare, if not rarer, than grace. And grace is even rarer than beauty. Sometimes beauty, as Mr. Churchill said, is like alabaster and is cold. But Anne Gordon Baldwin had all these qualities, as you well know: grace, charm, and beauty. And we hope that she, together with her husband, will be back with us many times, and that she will participate as she has in the past, especially in the Department of Music. So to Ludlow and Anne Gordon go our great thanks for what you have done for us all. Next, on behalf of the Board of Trustees, I wish to express our gratification, our deepest gratification, that Redmond Finney has accepted the offer to become our new headmaster. We are already familiar with his academic interests, his social awareness, his enthusiasm, and his dedication. In these trying times, we will need that certain toughness which he has, and which he combines with a fine sensibility and deep spirituality. To him and his lovely wife, Jean, we promise our full support. Our thanks go out to all who've given so generously to the school, all of you, both in annual giving and in the special gifts, that enable us to do so much this year for the school, both in our new classrooms renovated, in our library, and in so many, for our help with our faculty development fund, with our new athletic field, so many ways. Our thanks go to you. Finally, though, this is the day for the class of 1968. And to those of the class of 1968 go our congratulations. We thank each one of you for what you have done for the school. I wish there were a prize for each one, but as a well-known biologic fact, that some people commence to win prizes early in life, others develop later, and win their prizes later, as you will do. The main prize today is a diploma. This is what you've been working for, and a certificate of graduation. Everything else is relative. I was going to comment on our little bit of the origin of the school, but I won't today, and two particular prizes. One was the William A. Fisher Prize because his great-grandson is one of our, Judge William A. Fisher is one of our graduates today. And I was going to discuss a little bit, which I will not do because of time, about the great contributions of Bruce and the Fisher family to the school. I don't think it's appropriate just now. But I want to thank finally each family here for giving us your boy who is graduating here today. And we want to thank also especially the faculty for making it possible for the class of 1968 to be graduates. Now, at the crack of dawn this morning, a telegram came, which I will read to you and see if you can figure out before I tell you the name whom it came from. It comes from abroad, and the man hardly delivered it because the dog was jumping on him. He didn't open the car till I came downstairs. At the helm of Gilman changes, as the helm of Gilman changes hands today, please convey to Skipper Baldwin and his lady wife my love, admiration, and respect, and my pride for having served on their ship. Stop. To the new captain and Jeannie Finney, best wishes for a long and successful voyage. Stop. To the ensign class of 1968, smooth sailing. Stop. To your family and the Gilman community, kindest regards. Dmitri Manuelides, a Greek by birth, an American by choice, and at heart always a Gilman schoolman. As you will recall, Mr. Manuelides left us 2 years ago. He taught French and history and was at this school and was, of course, greatly beloved. Now, I have the honor, this is a surprise, of calling on the ranking member of the faculty, Mr. James Dresser, who has headed for many years and with great distinction the Department of Mathematics. Jim, will you come forward?
There come times in the life of every institution when someone is needed to provide a link with the past, and I'm always glad to oblige. As senior master, I am glad to render what service I can at such a time. Now, after an association of 22 years with Ludlow Baldwin, first when he was a fellow teacher, then when he was dean of the school, and more recently when he has been headmaster, there are bound to be some inner pangs as this long association is about to be changed. I almost said about to be ended, but I know, Ludlow, that your association with the school is not ended, and I know that I bespeak the desire of the entire faculty and of the new headmaster that you will continue as a consultant for many years to come. While I address my remarks to you, I will hope you will pardon me if I face the microphones here so I may be heard by everyone. I'm going to resist the temptation to reminisce even though my memory goes back many years, even to the late 20s, when you were a young businessman in Baltimore, and we young masters here at the school marveled at your prowess as center fielder with the alumni baseball team. Later, during World War II, you enlisted in the Navy and became a commander. It was then that you learned what Dr. Trimble has referred to just now as the way to run a tight ship. And here at Gilman, you have run a tight ship. You have never failed, however, to live up to your personal philosophy so often expressed in your talks to the school in morning chapel. Your predominating theme has been the inseparability of true religion on the one hand and the consideration of one's fellow man on the other. You have practiced what you preach. This graduating class and others which have gone out from this place will remember your talks and your example whenever they have occasion to ponder the real meaning of life. Now, the faculty has asked me to present you with a slight token of our esteem, and it is one which your very gracious wife can also enjoy. But before presenting this gift, please let me read the words of the inscription found on it. From the faculty of Gilman School to Ludlow, Hopkins, Baldwin, teacher 1946 to 1968, dean 1955 to 1963, headmaster 1963 to 1968, with gratitude for inspiring leadership which combined wisdom, courage, humor, and friendship. I doubt that Ms. Baldwin and I will ever have the opportunity to stand together before so many people, so I am going to ask Mrs. Baldwin if she will take this trophy, which Mr. Dresser has just turned over to me, and take it back to her seat. Mrs. Baldwin. I doubt that before all these 1,000 or 1,200 witnesses, I can be quite as intimate and familiar as I would like to be. So if Mr. Dresser and the faculty will permit, I will postpone further remarks of gratitude, which I feel most deeply, until a time when we are alone together. And I apologize to the graduating class for these diversionary incidents, and now we will move forward with the awarding of diplomas, which, as is the tradition of this school, are to be given by the President of the Board of Trustees, Dr. Trimble. I will call the name of each one, and Dr. Trimble will turn the diploma over to him. Andrew Eric Anderson. Benjamin May Baker III. John Keating Barry. Paul Bruce Bennett. Brian Barclay Bowie. Charles Prevost Boyce III. Jerome Michael Brown. Alan Ralph Brunn. Alfred Ely Burke, Jr. David Wolcott Chapin. Timothy Dimitri Alivizatos Chris. Hugh Richard Dana. William Wallace Downs, Jr. Pierce Butler Dunn. Gregory Bertram Emery. Robert Carmen Erlinson. Alan Streeter Farbuck. Howard Bruce Fenwick. Eric Fisher. William Alexander Fisher III. William Thomas Fitzgerald, Jr. Samuel Lewis Fox, Jr. Alan Robert Gaby. Alexander Gordon IV. Robert Belknap Green. David Kimball Greenlaw. Thomas Dawson Groom. George Richmond Gross II. Andrew Harper. Paul Edwards Harper. Edward Smith Harwood. Andrew Sampson Hirsch. James Davis Harrison Hooker. James Winslow Hunley III. John Tarleton Ingalls. J. Mark Avery. Gregory Sumner Kelly. Lawrence Wagner Kenny. Wonderful work. Alan Rayfield Kirby, Jr. Michael Philip Lair. Frederick Augustus Levering IV. James McGill, Jr. Dennis Patrick Malone. Todd Lawrence Morrill. Reed Andrew Morrison. Robert Johnny Morton. George Earl Pierpont Mountcott. James Clark Murphy III. Stuart Allen McCann. Stuart Milton Nathan. Travers Coates Nelson. James Alexander Nesbitt. Charles McGill Oba. David Rudder Owens. Robert Jenkins Prout. Abdul Hamid Mohammed Kabazad. Charles William Riley III. John Creighton Reed. David McDowell Robinson. David Halstead Schweitzer. William Bradley Seabreeze. Charles Edward Shaw III. Stuart Oswald Sims. George Kessner Singley. Evans Lansing Smith. James Arrington Sneed. Richard Benson Sparks III. William George Speed IV. John Rochester Spraggins. Louis Edward Stengel, Jr. Clinton Paulson Stevens, Jr. Henry Nicholas Wagner III. Arthur Thomas Ward III. George Stewart Webb, Jr. Christopher Reed West. Joseph Dominic Jenkins Wedby. David Owen Whitman. Willard Cornelius Wiggins. Alexander Davis Wilson. Before our closing remarks, I have to say goodbye on behalf of the school to faculty who are leaving. Mr. Clark plans to teach in Madrid. Mr. Halverson is going to NYU to do graduate work. Mr. Brayton is going to be married and then take up quarters at St. Paul's School in Concord. And Mr. Joaquin Roy is going over to Georgetown University for graduate work. We are sorry to lose these fine men, but are grateful that Gilman has been so fortunate as to have them on our faculty. In keeping with our tradition, I take more extended note of Mr. Bijakshin's leaving, as he has been with us a more substantial number of years. Mr. Bijakshin has been head of our modern language department, and it is due to his enthusiasm and his conscientiousness that our language laboratory, which annual giving produced in 1964, has given such an effective instrument of teaching. During his years with us, he has obtained his master's degree in French at Middlebury, and he has improved in Spanish through a summer at the University of Mexico. He also has improved the campus by reason of his marriage to Helga, and now he is going to leave us to work for his PhD at Harvard. We are sorry to lose him. Mr. Bijakshin, would you please come forward? It is appropriate also that we recognize at this time a lady who has been with us a great number of years. Miss Henrietta Rittler, who retired last fall after 28 years of wonderful helpfulness to parents, students, faculty, trustees, and the whole Gilman community. I would ask Miss Rittler to stand, please. This is the time also when I should speak briefly on my own behalf. I have never known as friendly a group of people as you parents have been to Mrs. Baldwin and to me, and we are both very grateful to you. There's no finer group of young people than you who are enrolled here today. I'm fortunate to have shared life with you. There's no collection of men and women who work as hard in a common cause and a noble cause as do the men and women who make up the faculty and the staff of the Gilman School. I thank each one of you individually for your loyalty and your many acts of kindness and helpfulness. And I thank the trustees for their faith and confidence in me and for giving me such an enviable and wonderfully satisfying a life as I have enjoyed here. I speak individually to each of you, parents, each of you boys, faculty, staff, and trustees, when I say that I hope we will continue to see much of each other, but that even so, Mrs. Baldwin and I will miss being with you from day to day. And now to speak briefly to and about the class of 1968 alone. It is no exaggeration to say that they have added a new dimension to Gilman's stature. In the past, I have referred to academic accomplishments of the school in general and the graduating class in particular. In scholarly attainments, the class of 68 is the equal of any class we've ever graduated. certainly the record of college acceptance and of scholarships awarded by colleges has not been equaled for many, many years. In the past, I have referred also to athletic accomplishments. In this area, the class of 1968 has showered the school with what is almost an embarrassment of riches. On the varsity and junior varsity levels, this year produced 5 championships and a one-loss percentage of over 800. Between the halves of the McDonough game last fall, Dr. Lambourne remarked that my years as headmaster might well go down in history as the high watermark in Gilman's athletic achievement. And this, although my real hope has been to interest people in archaeology in general and the Bible in particular. A third objective of the school heretofore has been spiritual growth. And it is not until I am away on evaluations of other schools that I realize we are about the only day school in the country that starts each day with a chapel service, and religiously each week has one day's service conducted by a member of this class. 8 seniors, moreover, assisted in the teaching of Bible classes, another unique characteristic of this school. And to the officers of this class of 1968, and particularly to its president, I say your leadership has not only been inspiring, but has had many aspects of the spiritual. And I and the whole school are glad we have been associated with you. The new dimension achieved by this class has been in the direction of community service. It is a happy coincidence and a propitious one, too, to find myself the embodiment of the administration aligned with John Spraggins as student representative in what we both consider the area of importance to be emphasized today. As you know, we for many years had a course here called Community Study, but this class has shown the way to something far finer, community participation. As you know also, Gilman was the first country day school in this nation. It still retains the best features of that idea, a day of study and activity that runs from 8:15 in the morning till 5:15 at night. But it is now something a great deal more. It is an integral member of one of the country's greatest metropolitan communities. It recognizes that urban problems and urban opportunities are of paramount importance and seeks to school its students in doing something about them. But for the energies of this class, these efforts could not have been successful. The members of this class have had the will and the spirit and the ability to serve their community while at the same time maintaining scholarship at a very high level and participation in all co-curricular activities of the school. I shall not go into these activities in detail, as John Spraggins has already covered them to a great extent. But in toto, over 50 of the 79 graduating today, that is, about 2/3 of this class, participated in one or another of our community activities. In doing so, they made constructive contributions to the particular area in which they worked, and also they received active training in urban affairs. In addition, they affected in wholesome fashion the entire student body of the Gilman School. This class of 1968, therefore, will be known as the class which developed service to the community to a greater extent than any class in the history of the school up to this time. It is our hope that as they go through college, they will not lose this spirit of service above and beyond the call of duty, but will always seek to do more for their community than is asked. I hope indeed that upon leaving college, many will seek out some such urban, community-involved school as this, situated like Gilman in a large city where the action is, and will find there the same satisfaction that the Gilman faculty has found in working with them. And suppose members of this class do, in 4 to 8 years, seek a position here or at some similar place. Will this kind of school still be operating? I often hear this question raised, and with direst foreboding expressed this way: will the private preparatory school survive? In most emphatic terms, I wish to answer that question, and I hope lay it to rest for those who are here today. The private preparatory day school will survive, so long as there are men like these who want to go into teaching. Men, I say, who are not niggardly with their time. Men who believe in the tradition of person-to-person contact many times during the day, before school, during chapel, during class, advising during open periods, talking with students at lunch, directing them in early afternoon activities, and coaching them in the afternoon. To repeat, as long as there are men of this type who are willing to give time to their students so that these students do not risk anonymous numbering or depersonalized alienation or being considered objects to be processed, so long as this is the case, this school will not only be strong, but will go on from strength to strength. I would add the further note that maintaining such a faculty and having them work 9 hours a day at school and another couple of hours at home will require more tuition income than at present, and I apologize for burdening my successor with the need for a tuition increase in 1969 to 70 at the latest. Even so, their reward will not be measured in money or in hours of ease, for as behooves the members of a true profession, and they will continue to be overworked and comparatively underpaid. Their reward will nevertheless be very real and is to be measured in terms as old as those of Leviticus and as modern as those of Bob Dylan, but perhaps best expressed just 100 years ago in the words of Browning: "Rejoice we are allied to that which doth provide and not partake, effect and not receive. A spark disturbs our clod, nearer we hold of God who gives than of his tribes who take. I must believe." This, then, is the message of the Gilman School in the last third of the 20th century in Baltimore's great urban community. And there is no one finer fitted to translate these words into action than is our new headmaster, Mr. Redmond Finney, who epitomizes the words I have just quoted and is best able to carry us forward on the forefronts of scholastic achievement, physical well-being, spiritual development, and community service. And I have pleaded with Mr. Finney to say at least a few words, and he has graciously consented. Mr. Finney.
Mr. Baldwin, Dr. Trimble, members of the board, faculty, student body, parents and friends, and the distinguished class of 1968. I'd like to express my great gratitude to Mr. Baldwin for all that he has done for me personally. I don't know how a transition from one administration to another could be smoother, and I also like to thank Mrs. Baldwin for her graciousness to both me and my wife in this respect. We're all going to miss Mr. Baldwin greatly, and this is the understatement of the year. But I want him to know, in no uncertain terms, that the great work that he has done here at Gilman and the great influence for the good that he has had on the school will always be remembered and serve as a model for the new administration to emulate. I trust and firmly hope that he will return often, because we want to see him and his wife. His spirit is in this school, and we will not forget it. I'd like to just address a final remark to the faculty and to the student body and tell you that I personally am going to need your support and your guidance. As you all know, these are times of great change in our society and consequent change in education. And we are going to have many decisions that have to be made, which are going to require keen judgment and imaginative thinking. There are going to be some things that probably we should change, and there are going to be some things that we should maintain and nurture and further. And I hope that all of us together will be able to tell the difference between the two. Finally, I'd like to just say to the student body that if we can emulate one of the great qualities that Mr. Baldwin, our headmaster, has had this coming year, we're going to be all right. And that quality is pride. Pride in whatever you do. Pride of the type which refuses to settle for second best. Pride which prevents us from ever becoming complacent. And this I call upon the student body of next year to come forth with. I want to extend my congratulations to the distinguished class of 1968, and I hope they'll be back often. They're a great bunch of men. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Benny, and good luck. To the whole school, those leaving us for college, as well as those who will again be working here next year, the faculty says, well done, and extends best wishes for a happy, constructive, and well-deserved vacation. We shall conclude with the great hymn, O God, our help in ages past, and then the final stanza of America. We will remain standing thereafter for the benediction by Dr. Alfred B. Starrett, to whom we are all greatly indebted, and I particular as my individual spiritual advisor and comforter. After the benediction, the audience is asked to remain in their places until the student body is left. The graduating class will remain briefly in the forward part of the gymnasium to be greeted by the trustees and the faculty. Let us rise and sing, O God, our help in ages past.
as we stand at the parting of the ways, we gratefully acknowledge all that our life together has meant to us, and we ask that the bonds of friendship and mutual helpfulness will remain strong across the miles between us. Deal kindly, O God, with each member of this graduating class, and help all of us in the years ahead to show our everlasting thankfulness to Ludlow Baldwin by continuing love for him and for Ann Gordon. Bless our new headmaster and help us to give him the same loyalty and support that we have given to the Baldwins. We ask this out of the deep trust that is the foundation of our life. Amen.